how the industry iterates, right? Like people normally don't. I mean, first of all, I think Wormhole is super dope name. I think, wow, I was talking to like, it's it's such a perfect name for the purpose of the project. We see a lot of great use cases on that. And the moment Wormhole was out, and we're thinking, okay, is there anything we can do with it? Because previously before Wormhole, and was a lot of chaotic movements here and there, and people don't realize on the beauty or the power that the Wormhole is unleashing, right? Once you see the vision and also how the multi-chain ecosystem works across the blockchain ecosystem, and then you realize, okay, this is a service that is really needed. It's and then we've been talking about for a while between the team, and finally got the chance to contact with the team, and surprisingly, everything goes so smooth, and we've been doing a lot of things together. Super excited for it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, we're super glad you guys reached out. I feel like you guys are doing some super cool stuff with the Wormhole tech. I think we're sort of here at the moment to try and debunk the fact that we're just a bridge. You know, look at what you guys are doing with sort of the Wormhole core layer. It's just super exciting. So without further ado, welcome to yourself. Welcome to all the sinners and the Einsteins in the chat. If you'd like to just start by telling me a bit about yourself, Roy.
Sure. So, hey everyone, my name is Roy. Again, thanks again for having me here. I kicked my career earlier as a game developer on podcast, early days in 2006. Very early on, and now being in the space for a while in gaming, being a serving executive in the several public traded companies, and I got in crypto full time 2017, and serving like a business and marketing head for Tron, and he did give us did a lot of crazy deals when back in Tron, of course, like given my background in gaming and crypto for these years, it's I was super excited to see the booming of NFT and metaverse. It's perfect timing for us, and the resources, the market is really limited for the talents. So happy to dive into this, and we kicked off a project early on. I mean, this year, end of last year, on the Mobland. Right, essentially, it's a mafia war. Well, yeah, where the folks play what mafia war. So it's very, very clear to me the niche and also the consensus among the community is what takes the project further, right? It's in crypto, in crypto, it's all about consensus. I think, yeah, super appreciated and proud to have a super sticky and vibrant community around us in Mobland, as the name states itself. I think, that's as my intro. And so far, again, I think the project's going very fast. A lot of partnership to be revealed, like ours included, right? So
yeah, exactly that. Yeah, you sort of touched on the fact of how important community is. I completely agree with that. Like, we wouldn't be the project we are. You guys wouldn't be the project you are without all the people in the audience right now. It's amazing sort of the traction that you guys have been getting, especially I came into your Discord earlier, and I completely love it how you've got the different syndicates, you've got, the sinners, things like that. So yeah, tell me a bit more about Mobland.
Mobland, like I mentioned, the pitch for that is a mafia war for Web3, right? As old enough, people old enough or play the mafia war, or you understand there's a lot of things we can do, a lot of economy can create within the metaverse. The beauty for that is, the skies is the limit, and in the consensus we can create a bunch of things. Like, we're revealing our wheat farms in the next couple of days. There's huge announcement and plans for that. We'd be super excited to see. I think it's super dope to have working with some of the biggest names in the space to reveal our possibility, what we can do for the wheat farm, right? So that, who can imagine now on the 420 after people being locked out for 2 years, who can actually do something with the digital weed, right? It's fantastic. But yeah, I think it's I feel super happy about the progress, working with Wormhole, and also, but take a step back from these kind of event-driven, marketing-driven events. It's really about thinking about what the industry is evolving around the world as we are in the multi-chain ecosystem. Like, number one, why do we need multi-chains? Number two, how do projects navigate through multi-chains, right? I mean, totally we see the religious reasons and other economy reasons to have multiple chains out there, but the reality is, oftentimes I hear developers talking about, I want this chain to do this. I'm looking for a perfect chain to do this. This kind of conversation happens oftentimes coming from new developers coming to the blockchain, right? The reason I think about this, and also I totally understand where you're coming from, especially you're new to this industry. You want to go, everybody wants to be the savior and to take the whatever sluggish, complicated, frictional user experience to the mass market. Everybody wants to do that. But also, I think, people need to take a deep dive to understand what is the blockchain is really about. Granted, there may be a technology that can solve everything, that to bring the decentralization plus the speed of transaction, right? All that sort. I definitely believe so. But it will take time to reach that. And and just like any industry would do, like early on, if you remember back in 2005, there are so many different Java phones out there, right? There's Symbian for Nokia kind of around. There are Java coming from Sony and other people, right? There's Microsoft, Windows Me. Like there's a bunch of other folks doing their own ecosystem. So when there's a nascent market, of course, there are going to be a variation and the different trials, and some will succeed, some will not succeed. And the best for the business would be no-brainer, work with all of them.
Yeah, I think it's actually that.
So I was working on some mobile before, who work with different carrier, billing, and stuff. And we work with all of them. That's the best way to franchise out your cash making business and maximize the opportunities. That's, as a developer, as a business owner, this is what you should think about, rather than say, hey, I feel married to one chain. I mean, I love Solana, but it doesn't mean Solana should be the only chain that works for you. Now, if you take a step back, then you say, okay, now I realize there are different chains. Okay, I see the pros and cons from one chain to the other. But I think it's really important to change your mindset to see, okay, what's the other side of the equation, meaning with the users? What are they looking at? What are they looking for? And coming from what the user or consumer base and the user demand. And then come back to see, okay, where's the blockchain technology available? What can I offer? Right? It's just like back into the web 1.0 .com time. Everybody is the top of the head, or even like 2.0, the beginning space. They're saying, I can do so much things. I want to do this, I want to do that. And there's a very rare chance that the people coming from the other side of the equation, like, given this core demographic, what are they looking for, right? So I think once you come from that and go from the user-driven, user principle, demand supply level, and you can design product based on the product market fit, that's when you can realize, okay, the multi-chain ecosystem really offers me liquidity and user base, period. Nothing else. So every chain has their pros and cons, like I said, but the key value prop that don't change is users and liquidity. So if that's clear to you, then it's, when Wormhole comes up, it's perfect too. It's a perfect timing for me. It's like, great. It's the consensus this is kind of a layer of Oracle plus the cross-chain element that I'm looking for years, so that I can really build my so to speak, like tree trunk based kind of a framework where we're chain agnostic, right? By saying chain agnostic, meaning that our core asset in ERC, the reason why ERC is because it's vanilla. It doesn't really affect on other chain, no religious, no whatsoever. Nobody hates Ethereum, right? Everybody holds Ether. On the other hand, listing can make it super easy as well, because you don't have to wait for one chain or another to support it. Even though a lot of new chains try to say, hey, this is shitloads of money, I'll pay you to be on mine. I understand the mentality because I was on that side of the table as well. But the reality is there's priorities, depends on how much you can pay me, yada, yada, right? So they're always going to be delayed. The key thing here is we put our core asset on ERC, but of course we understand ERC may not be the most scalable solution, and it's definitely not going to be able to run everything, which is we create each utility layer of the whole ecosystem on each chain, each side chain. Any chain aside from ERC, we call them side chain, right? So we put these like EVM compatible side chains, and these side chains essentially runs a shard of our actually core application, so that people can run these applications faster on these side chains, meanwhile enjoying the core asset being supplied all over the place. But on the other hand, it's given the shard solution, it's very interesting as it opens up the parallel universe. Because I used to be on the one on the other side table and say, hey, like move to Tron. Stop doing this on EOS. The kind of argument is like old school. Like, don't do EOS. EOS gives you nothing. They don't do this and do that. I might be wrong, but just saying that, I learned the lesson that way. And I realized later on, as much as I was pushing because I was playing my role back in Tron, but really I understand from a developer perspective, what's the difference? Like, what they can offer me. Can I do that, do that? And eventually you end up doing the same thing. And the whole porting infrastructure and the procedure was very much similar. You're basically repeating your work from one chain to the other without coordinating or strategically plan things out accordingly to maximize developers' return, which in my view is completely waste, and I'd like to change that. And thankfully, Wormhole is there, so that we can just build this layer of like a middle layer, so to speak, to help developers to bridge these two, so that this, like I said, like each sidechain is essentially opening a parallel universe, right? Today you can be the king of Mafia on the Binance, but tomorrow we open up another Polygon shard, so people can always rush into the newly opened like Polygon shard to become the king of Polygon, right? So interesting. So it's like it's parallel universe, and you may have less competitors on the Solana, and people just pivot towards that. We just want to give this kind of a parallel universe to people to get engaged, to make it the most successful to the project. Because the beauty for that is whenever you open up a shard on whatever branch, you need to stake your core asset, right? Which is on ERC, to mirror whatever assets needed on the other shards. So that creates the core, like drying up the core liquidity of the government's currency or core asset. The more you open up the branch, the more draining to your core asset. Yeah. So that is the bigger playbook in terms of, it sounds kind of a cheesy or cliche. Hey, what's the definition of a successful metaverse project? Well, there are two parts. One is consensus. Two is supply and demand. It sounds cheesy and cliche, but it's 100% true, right? This is all we are looking for, and we do everything to support the community for that, to build consensus around, to become the biggest community in space. And like you said, like we have all the sub syndicates, and that's how sticky the whole community is. It's mind blowing, and I'm super excited for this. see, and I've never seen this before in any other communities and other metaverse projects whatsoever, right?
No.
But in terms of like the level of supply demand, this is so clear to me that, aside from what we do in terms of partnership, content, and upgrade, and the product itself, the whole playbook that makes sense to our investors, our holders, is this. So that people understand that, the overall playbook is clear. The grand schematic kind of a overall plan is very clear. Whatever we do, we'll keep multiple shards. Whatever multiple shards we do, we'll keep on draining on the circular supply, on the core asset. This is why, our setup is super important. And thanks again for the wormhole support.
Sounds great. How, on that, I think you touched on it early slightly with the weed farms. How does your sort of upcoming GameFi economy loop? Like, what's seed, for example? How are you using weed? And how does that all sort of come together?
Sure. I mean, you basically stake your Sinner, which is the ERC governance token, stake it on the ERC, and which will generate through wormhole to create a seed, which is a BSC asset. You use the BSC asset to farm into a weed farm, which is NFT, to create relevant to make relevant weed tokens. So it's the very first time people have the digital weed in the space, right?
Yeah.
As you can see, we evolved from DeFi 1.0 in the middle of DeFi 1.0 and 2.0 to create a kind of NFT-based farms instead of the previous it's all in one farm kind of situation. We have multiple farms. Everybody have their own NFT version of the farm, and each farm which has own properties. Some weed farms produce like 10 weed a day. Some others produce 100 weed a day, right? But the one of a 100 weed a day farm, they can probably have the decay, faster. So the 100 weed a day kind of thing lasts only for 1 week, and then the plateaus to 10 weed a day. But of course, that affects on the, the price on the open market of the NFT, right? So as an owner of the weed farm, become a capitalist. You attract people holding the seed to come to your farm to farm the weed, and you can also collect on the taxation through the process for whichever, because you're a landlord now, right? So you're not just being the farmer, like the harvest or Wi-Fi. They just become a farmer. No, but who gives the right for Andrew Kanye to be the landlord to collect taxation? Who gives them, right? So we should be also the right owner and own our own farm and be our own landlord just to do this order, right? So this is how we call this DeFi 1.0 or 1.5. Even further, we deploy a lot. We learn a lot from protocol liquidity as well, where you can deposit into the LP tokens so as to earn additional assets out of it. Either like discounted tokens and or NFTs for other business licenses. I think this is a huge innovation for the space. People think NFTs for characters and items, or people for this is real estate. I think the real estate is very limited. End of the day, you need to put the real estate to use, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we say that we're bringing to the NFT. If it's NFT 1.0 is the individual character and item. NFT 2.0 is about land and real estate. NFT 3.0 is about business utility on top of the land and the real estate. So we're bringing this to the equation and putting DeFi as a real GameFi 2.0 to these features.
So will there be a sort of finite supply on the property in the real estate in Mobland?
Yeah, there will be a cap on the total. There will be a limit selection. We don't want the whole market to inflate. Because it's just like because at the end of the day, the weed generator will be consumed as well to upgrade your weed farm. Your own asset, your own property will be upgraded as well to change into the productivity, so on and so forth. So that you're really tinkering up, you're investing into your own asset and real estate, putting it more valuable to secondary market. it's a serious business, right? But also it opens up, like say, it opens up other opportunities for cannabis farms, from leaf farm to mushroom farms, to cocaine farms. Mm-hmm. So these are the unlimited opportunities down the road. Of course, that's relevant to whichever characters we could be introducing. Some of the characters are more fine-tuned towards cannabis kind of flavor to upgrade, right? You can use sweet to upgrade some categories of characters, but also you can use mushroom down the road to upgrade a certain, like, more mushroom flavored or favored characters, right? To act as the defending or manager of these the businesses and so on and so forth. So there's unlimited possibility, right, to build your business around the scene.
It's like so fascinating to me, and it'd be really interesting to see how sort of users interact with it. Will there be some massive players in the space, and then obviously you have the sort of strategy-based PvP system as well, right? So these guys who are big players, they can't get too comfortable.
Correct. I mean, like, essentially, this is the whole point. That's why we have our syndicate together, to take care of the families. And that's why all the models coming for characters, raiding and defending, coming through mercenary, through like community-owned buildings, properties, as a sub-DAO system. This all comes together. So I think Mafia is the best place to start the DeFi and the GameFi economy. I think our community is super down to earth. They realize this is it. This is a niche. As much as we want to conquer the rest of the metaverse, you got to start somewhere. And we're the Mafia who start as a vertical, and people will see, okay, this is how we build everything, and grow our community together.
So where are you now on your roadmap, and sort of how fast is development coming along? What sort of roadblocks are you foreseeing? Things like that.
Well, previously it was Wormhole, right? And then now we got to work with Wormhole. I think it's a perfect opportunity, and I think we can do a lot more things together, and we can do a lot of talk a lot more about the idea and principle between this partnership and the product, to bring more value to the whole ecosystem, right? I'm happy to do that. I mean, we have, and most people think Wormhole is just for bridging, but don't really understand the utility and how it impacts the rest of the community. They understand Wormhole as backed by a lot of famous people, but they just don't know what it means and how to really put it into use. Like, everybody heard about Salesforce, but what is Salesforce for? How do I encounter that in my real day-to-day life? They don't get that, right? So I think we would be around the flagship and the utility on top of the Wormhole. That's something super exciting. But yeah, I mean, we're ready to lock and load for our farms, and just the internal testing, getting all that done. And good news to be announced on 420.
On 420. That sounds like the perfect time, right? So can you reveal any sort of information about what's going to be going down on 420?
Oh, a lot of big names to be dropped, to see what to be put together. It's going to be no-brainer. It'll be so no-brainer, and but you will also see, like, oh, such a perfect match, and all these things.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
It's going to be one of a kind.
I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to this. Is there anything else that you'd like to touch on before we move to some questions from the audience?
Yeah, let's move to the questions. I know, to respect of the time, over 30 minutes, we are running a bit over, so
that's all right. I think we're okay. Right. So if you're listening on the stage, then head to the Stage's text chat channel, and we'll start rolling through a few of your questions. You sort of comment. quick, see what we've got. Do we have a roadmap for future blockchains integration between Wormhole and Mobland?
Sure. I mean, we're starting initially using BSC. And for obvious reasons, you always want to keep finance closed. And of course, other chains we're closely supporting, including ecosystem ones like KuCoins, including Huobi's, but also for some reasons, but also other chains like Solana, Avalanche, LS, but whichever Wormhole supports, we'll be supporting. So, so our scalability is kind of
yes. So yeah, so we're on 8 chains currently. So yeah, you guys are going to be fully cross chain then.
Yes.
Okay, we got a question from Spacey, I think it is, who asks, in Mobland/Wormhole cross-chain implementation, pools will be set up to allow the movement of tokens amongst chains. What happens when too many tokens move to a specific chain, reducing the liquidity of that particular pool?
Well, that's a very good question, but think about that. If you stay into the original chain, then you become the king or queen. Right?
Yeah.
Think about this.
Take over BSC, for example.
Exactly. So, this is a very good question, but this played it out. This is the reality is going to happen. People will roll over to the new chain, yes, but other people will be sticking around. You can see their divergence coming up in terms of, some people want to move to the other one, right? Or you could be also moving on to the new one as well to continue your legacy. More often than not, whether we see before into traditional gaming space, we see the continuation of their legacy happening more often than not, because it's a humanity game, and we all know that. At the end of the day, when you're on the top of the list, you cannot allow any kind of you want to hold monopoly. That's the way we see that. So I'm not worried about it, but even though people would move, some people would move, most people would move, some people would not move, and it's totally fine because you have more asset in one vertical chain to become a monopoly.
It'll be interesting thinking about it as to whether sort of influences within the game start to appear. So you've got like the king of BSC, right? Who's a well-known character, and how that all plays out, the sort of social dynamics between everything like that is something that really interests me.
Correct.
Right. So should we choose one more question before we wrap up here? So Crypto Maniac asks, how will staking BP play into this? Is staking a BP just a multiplier where you need to stake Syn as well?
Correct. It'll be a buff. So it's whoever is being our OG, you'll be always taken care of and respected. You have additional buff into all this.
Sounds great. Right. Well, I think we're slightly over on time. But if you've got a few minutes to give us any sort of upcoming alpha or something just for the people who are listening in, then the stage is yours.
Thank you. Following on our social on Twitter, like the Mobland HQ and myself and the Roy LXY Twitter. So any alpha would be dropped over there.
Cool. Yeah, you heard the man. Go and follow his socials. Go and check out Mobland on Twitter, and of course follow Wormhole on Twitter. Stay in our Discord. We're going to be doing some pretty cool things with community upcoming, and I'm sure we'll have some events in the future with you sinners.
Sounds great. So thanks so much again for having me.
Thanks for joining, and take care.
You too. Bye.
Yeah, bye.